This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Good morning, Ira. It's a cruel world, but teams do use the stopgap coach.
Absolutely.
To get you to the next level, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you see that all the time. You see Pat Riley leaves, Don Nelson goes in, fails with the Knicks, Jeff Van Gundy steps over. You know, what's the expression? You don't want to be the coach who follows the legend. You want to be the coach who follows the legend, because it's
Amen.
really hard to come in. I mean, look, you could talk about Jimmy Johnson and Don Shula, and there are exceptions to the rule, but it is hard to follow a legend, and most of the time it winds up in a tough spot. It'll be really interesting to see what the San Antonio Spurs do when Greg Popovich steps down, because that could be a tough spot for them also. But you know what? You know what you're getting into. And for a lot of the guys, that's getting their foot back in the door. So maybe Lovie Smith moves on and becomes a coordinator somewhere else after working in college. You know, there's always another step for those coaches also. Sure. But you can sort of see the guys they're committed to reshape their franchises, and the guys they're committed to get us through this absolute slop. Perfect example. Here in Boston last night, you had Steve Clifford go in with the Charlotte Hornets and get destroyed by the Celtics. Think about this for a second. Last spring, Kenny Atkinson, the assistant at Golden State, was hired and took the job in Charlotte. And then Michael Jordan laid out a game plan on, we're going to be terrible because there's this guy in France we want to win with. And Kenny Atkinson was, I've been with the Warriors. We've won championships. I don't need that. So instead, Steve Clifford comes in. Hey, he just wanted a job. He loses with the Hornets. They're bad. They get their guy. Those are the kind of guys you wind up getting. Like Lovie Smith, the career, been there, seen it, done it. Lovie Smith is not dying with all those losses. A first-time coach would be. Imagine if Mike McDaniel had to go through that. He may never have another job. I mean, it's Cam Cameron syndrome. So you have to be careful not to get in those situations. A veteran guy, he has money in the bank, he has a guaranteed contract, and he knows what losing is like on the professional level and how to deal with it.
Yep, exactly. That's why Lovie was like super calm while everything was going on in Miami and Houston. They're getting walloped in that first half, and he's, there. All right, so they play Boston tomorrow. So I want to ask you something. Does Caleb Martin listen to our show?
I believe Caleb Martin not only listens, but I'm trying to sell him the sponsorship packages you have out there. As long as the commission's the same, I'm working on it, Big O.
Well, I told you Caleb needs to be the heart and soul there, part of what they do in that first team. And his last 3 games, 20, 24 points, 9, 4, and 9 in rebounds, 4, 1, and 4 in assists, 2, 1, and 2 in steals. By the way, the 9 assists, only 2 turnovers in the process. Incredibly efficient from three-point range, 66, 50, and 44%. From the field, 66, 63, 58. I'm telling you, Ira, I'm sticking to my guns here. This is a different kind of player. This is a real Heat player. This is a guy that plays all over the damn court and on both sides of the court. You need players like this to set the table.
Except he is doing this all with Jimmy Butler out. And in many ways, Big O, he's playing like Jimmy Butler. It's all about that chemistry, that 5-man cohesion. Look how great Bam Adebayo has been the last 2 games without Jimmy Butler. So again, and again, this is the frustrating part for me. Since November 1, the Heat have not had the primary lineup of Martin and Adebayo and Butler and Hero and Lowry together. I still don't know how this works. I know this, and you and I knew this going into the season. There are a lot of very good components on this team, but you have to create a chemistry. You have to create Tua to Waddle. You have to create Tua to Hill. You have to be together on the court. So when Jimmy Butler comes back, is Caleb Martin the same player? Does Bam Adebayo start deferring? When the ball goes in the post, does it go back out to Jimmy?
Okay, but this is what I want now for them to we've talked about the youth movement, right? You know me, I've talked about it, the development. It's here.
Yes.
Do it. Why should Jimmy play 40 freaking minutes every night? Why should he score 30, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists? use him. Jimmy should come back to make sure that Caleb plays this way, that Bam plays this way, and that he plays off of them, not everybody playing off of him. I want to save Butler. I want him to stay under the 30-minute mark where he's at the 25-minute mark playing 28 minutes, and the other guys are carrying the load so you can keep Jimmy fresh for the end of a half, for the end of a game, for the end of the season, for the playoffs, for the moments that you need Jimmy Butler to be the ultimate badass that he is. But for now, during this 82-game run, brother, you got young legs like Bam and Caleb and Tyler. They need to do the heavy lifting overall. I don't want Butler doing the heavy lifting anymore because it's not fair to him and it's not good in the long term for the team because then the poor man is worn out by the end of the year. So do you think it's doable, or do you think these young guys are still too green to be what we've seen the last couple of years?
Now we'll see whether they want to grasp that. You've seen this, Big O. Young players perform well and then defer. Young players perform well and say, screw the veterans. This is my time now. I'm taking over.
They got the contracts, right? All three. All three got contracts.
Caleb's not a big money deal, but Tyler and Bam alone, their deals are worth almost $500 million. So you have to make it work. So might this be the transition point we're talking about? You know something, Big O? I'm going to say something that might not be popular here in the Acura Pembroke Pines report, but I think it's honest, at least where we stand right now on November 29th. The Miami Heat are probably not catching the Boston Celtics or Milwaukee Bucks this season. The Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks.
10-1 at home. Oh, my God.
The Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks are better than the Heat. So should this start the transition? Remember, Big O, next season's the last on Kyle Lowry's contract. 3-year deal, he's done. Jimmy is getting older. Is this the time now to look toward the Tyler? And look at Tyler and Bam in their pick and roll game was awesome in Atlanta. Tyler didn't score, but he showed us he matured because he got the triple double.
Aggressive Bam is awesome.
Bam was aggressive.
He went over the 18-shot mark, and look what we're watching. Keep doing it, Bam.
First time in his career, consecutive games with 20 or more shots. And even when Tyler didn't make shots, he got assists, he got rebounds, he's learning. It doesn't have to be about his scoring. So maybe this is the transition. Maybe there is no championship this year. Maybe there's no championship next year. But maybe the payoff from those extensions comes as those two continue to grow. Hey, Martin's only 27 years old. Strus is only 27. Those guys have 3, 4, 5 more years of competitive basketball in them. Jovic is only 19. Maybe get him on the court with those guys also, and you can really see. Look, I'm not saying that Jovic, Adebayo, and Hero are anyone's big three at the moment, but they could grow into something special. You want to have that. We've seen too many of our teams not have the next step, the next degree, the moving forward. I think the Heat could have that. They can be competitive now, not championship competitive, but competitive. And then have something where you and I can talk about twice a week in our Acura Pembroke Pines reports and say, you know what, Ira? It's going to be an interesting team. And maybe it'll be something different than now. It'll be a fun team as well.
Right. That's what I had the last couple of nights. I had fun watching Bam play like what we've wanted him to play, forever. And then here's the other thing. You start doing this now. You put them on the center stage. They get the pressure minutes, they get the experience, and then next year when Lowry's contract is either expiring or it expired, either way, whether it's during the season or just after, you will then get the opportunity to add a star to that team, that young core that you have there. So for me, I think that's kind of what you want to do. It's time to find out. It's time to sink or swim with these guys. Like, okay, we paid you the money. How good can you be? I don't want to see Bam as the super role player that he's been. I want to see Bam as the franchise player like he's played the last 2 nights. And then when you unlock Caleb, who I think is just a fantastic all-around player, let him grow too. And I think that makes Tyler better by having those guys out there helping you also on the defensive end. So I'd like to see that core grow. And then obviously we'll see what Jovic turns into in the next year or two. He's still a little young, but those three should be, and Strus, he's fantastic off the bench.
And here's the thing. When you develop that young core, veterans will come here at a low price. For example, Goran Dragic is playing for the minimum. He looked at Chicago. It didn't turn out this way, but he said, you know what? Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine, I can go there. I'll go for the minimum. So instead of getting Kyle Lowry at $38 million a year, with the temptation of Adebayo and Hero, maybe Jovic, a Mike Conley who becomes a free agent, all of a sudden says, you know what? I'll go there for the minimum. So instead of paying Kyle 38, you're still getting a veteran, but you're getting a guy who's intrigued by the young guys, who's coming at a small deal. You don't have to throw that money after a veteran like they did with Jimmy, like they did with Kyle. It's interesting. But again, Heat fan, Heat Nation, as you listen to our Acura Pembroke Pines report, appreciate if you want to grow something, you have to let those seeds germinate. You have to let it take time.
Yeah.
It might cost you a win. You might go to me after Wednesday in Boston or Friday in Boston and go to me, Ira, why is Bam taking that last shot that he missed? And I'm going to tell you, Big O, because he has to be in that situation and has to grow from it. So yes, it was an L in Boston, but next time he knows where to take it, when to take it, and how to take it. As long as Heat Nation can have patience, which I've never heard to be the case, I think you can grow something special. I do agree, Big O.
I mean, the Celtics are 17-4 and 10-1 at home. It's not like Miami's 10-11 and 2-7 on the road. So
Bucks are great, and the Bucks are great also. So you have, excuse me, you have dual issues there. Sometimes they're just better teams. Sometimes you have to deal with it.
No, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, dude. What Pat Riley and Mickey have done for 25 years, you have to appreciate everything that they've done. You have titles, you have tons of playoff trips. This is part of the process of trying to get back to, if you're going to be great again, well, then guess what? I just think that you've got to make that turn to the young people, because you already tried it with the older guys. It has not worked. It's not going to get you there. And if you're going to ride Jimmy all year long and then try to ride him all the way through the playoffs, it just puts too much of a burden on him.
I agree.
I think he becomes even more deadly if you keep him fresher and he's playing off of the young guys.
Yes,
that's where I think
he's just the only old guy and one of a few. You're not doing the Iguodala thing. You're not doing the PJ Tucker thing. You're not looking at a guy and seeing no future. It's nice to look at a guys and saying, you know what? I can buy the Adebayo jersey and know my kid can wear it in Heat colors because he's not going anywhere. I can buy the Hero jersey. Again, it's interesting. I spoke to you in recent years and I said before Tua really emerged, I said, if you were to buy a family member a Dolphins jersey, who would you buy? And even you said you were really waffling because you didn't know who was going to be there for sure. There was a time there we didn't even know, what was going to go on, with Xavier Howard. Would he be there? Would his contract be an issue? Would he demand a trade? Now you can kind of feel good if you're a Dolphins fan. I think you'd agree, Big O. If you buy a Tua jersey, your kid can wear it for the next 5 years and doesn't have to trade it in for a Tua Texans jersey. Remember, just a year ago, Tua was going for Deshaun Watson. He was being offered out the door. It's nice to see teams, whether it's Tua, whether it's Bam, to establish their own star and let that star grow. It's kind of nice. We haven't had that for a while at South Florida. You never could buy a Marlins jersey because whether it was Stanton or Yelich or someone, they were gone in the wind anyway. Hell, you couldn't buy a Huberto jersey because he was gone in the wind. So it's kind of nice to have a Tua. It's kind of nice to have a Barkov. It's kind of nice to have an Adebayo. It's nice to have your guys. I love when they get free agents. Trades are always fun. But you know what? It's nice to see someone grow up in front of your very eyes. A lot of ways I look at Bam Adebayo as Orlando Alzugaray's second child.
And listen, here's the other point that I want to make.
Sure.
I haven't been happy, obviously, with the Kyle Lowry deal. I've been very vocal about that. Here's the thing. If we start using the young guys as the anchors, if Bam is taking the 20-plus shots a night, if Tyler and Caleb and Strus are part of your core, then less pressure is on Lowry to score, which is really his huge burden right now because he's just not consistent enough to be a scorer for you or even a shooter for you.
He doesn't have the explosion at 37. He had at 27. Yes.
But he is still El Pibe Valderrama. When Pibe got here for the fusion, he could barely move. But, buddy, all he needed to do was tap the ball and set up Lassiter and set up whoever he wanted ahead of because he had the touch. He had the experience. He had the vision. Here in comes Lowry. I see him as Valderrama. I don't expect you to carry anything, dude, but I expect you to facilitate. And if there's something he can still do at a high level, is run the offense and facilitate. And then occasionally drive to the hole or whatever and score something for you. But that's what to me, if you put the gas into the young guys, and then all of a sudden you don't have to ask the guy that's got an empty tank practically to carry you.
And even, someone more recent, even Higuaín, when he first arrived here, he was giving great setup passes, and there was no one there to finish because all you had was Brek Shea, and you weren't scoring. And then he realized this season, even at his advanced age, he had to score, and he did score. But
you're talking about Higuaín now. You're talking about
Higuaín. You knew that wasn't sustainable.
I was going back to the Fusion days when I was older.
Right. I'm trying to be more recent, but you knew with Higuaín scoring this season, it wasn't sustainable. No offense to Kyle, but this is probably not sustainable, these big scoring games every now and then. It's not who he is at 37. So I agree. There's a nice trend here. I'd say even though they're under 500, you can make an argument long-term wise, the Heat are trending in a reasonably good place. I would agree with that.
And what you also said earlier in the interview, they're all of a sudden become entertaining.
Yes.
And that's look at the Dolphins. Boring for 25 years, boring because you were just hoping for your defense to bail you out because they couldn't ever score. And this grinded out stuff with them and going to the line and it's great to watch Jimmy attack the hole and all that with those vice grip hands of his. But when you watch the electrifying play that you see with these young guys, Bam was awesome. Like that was
I agree. The Heat were Miles Gaskin at the start of the season, and now they're becoming something more, and it's kind of nice to see. I would agree with that.
Yeah, a big Tyreek Hill is what we're getting out of Bam Adebayo, which is awesome. All right, what do you got going on in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Couple of things. Mostly, I just posted a feature on Drew Smith, which is really interesting. They invited him down here at Thanksgiving with no guarantee of a job. He worked out on Friday morning, and they basically said, we might need you. Gave Vince's knee issue, happened. All of a sudden, the guy played on Friday and Sunday, and you know what? He put together a couple really good games. He had a huge three-pointer at the end of the game. It's the cliche of don't, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. But did he do that? Look at Orlando Robinson. He was with the team for a week, but he had an impact even in the overtime loss in Washington. He was effective. Drew Smith the same way. These guys really do turn lumps of coal into really gifts that give at least in the moment. So it's a really nice story of him staying ready, understanding, hey, this might be over in a heartbeat. He's going to enjoy the moment. So I wrote about that. I did my Ask Ira today, what we spoke about on the Tyler Hero Bam Adebayo pick and roll. That not only is it an action that's been good for the team, but it's an action with a couple of guys who were 23 and younger. That it's young guys getting it done. That Tyler's 23, Bam's a little older, so you can grow with it also. So for all the people, you should have kept Dragic, you should have gone older. It's nice. By moving on from Goran, you've let the canvas be open for Tyler to be a playmaker as well as a scorer. And man, I thought that was the biggest step forward maybe in Tyler's NBA career when he realized he could shoot 3 of 12 from the field and 0 of 8 on three-pointers and still have a productive game. You have to learn that lesson. I think he did on Sunday.
Yeah, and by the way, I've called the Finns now the Miami Heat because the Miami Heat for years now have been unearthing talent all over the place. Now Chris Greer and company, they've been doing that with the Nick Needhams of the world and the Sealers of the world and all these other guys that they're finding, all over the place. Robert Jones, and they find Brandon Shell to play right tackle for a few weeks. It's crazy that they've done that now because, as you know, we've become fans of the Summer League and all the other offseason moves. And you don't overlook who's in Sioux Falls anymore.
Right.
Why? Because there's a good chance that somebody in Sioux Falls is going to be playing in your rotation soon.
And just like with the Dolphin scouting, someone on another team's practice squad could be their starting left tackle, and they know that. That's why you always see in the background of the GMs these boards with every name in the league in there. And the great teams know every one of those players, their strengths and their weaknesses. I have scouts calling me all the time. Asking me, give me the update on Drew Smith. Why? Because they might sign him if the Heat let him go. Same thing, Orlando Robinson. You have to work at it. What the Dolphins have done recently, yes, they traded Tunsil, the picks they got back. Some they kept, some they turned into something else. That's what you do. You leave yourself open to every possibility. You just don't go with the fans. They just spend all the money on this guy. They should get that guy. Everyone is in play when you're a good team and a good front office. I agree.
Yeah, man. They've done an awesome job. All right, Ira. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. And, of course, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel and follow all of his work. Ira, be safe in your travels, my friend. Enjoy.
And we'll
the
talk
seas.
tomorrow at 9 a.m. on our redrecover.com Inside the Paint show, which is always fun to see if Orlando gets up on time and introduces us or it's just the cold open. So I will wait and see with Kurt tomorrow, 9 a.m.
Tomorrow you'll get the intro. Remember,
right.
dude, I was going 7 days a week. The voice was not getting any rest.
All right, let's
was
stop and think about this. Ira
rough.
Winderman has had 1 day off since September 6th, and yet the Big O is asking for sympathy. Screw that. I will talk to you tomorrow morning. Get your ass out of bed.
It's the voice.
Oh, you're silky smooth no matter. You're silky smooth no matter what.
This isn't radio where I take a half-hour break of commercials in an hour. I do 3-4 minutes in an hour. It's 56 minutes.
Content. But these fingers get tired also. But that's another story for another day. Talk to you tomorrow a little before 9. redrecover.com Inside the Paint with Kurt Elin. Be there tomorrow. Thank you, Big O.
You don't need this for your fingers, okay? I need this for my throat. Ira Winderman.
This is the Big O Show.